All right, hello everyone. Thank you for having me here. React Alicante 2025. I'm super excited to speak here today. And I'm going to be teaching you how to build interactive async UIs with React 19 and ARIA-Kit. Hold on, let me see if I can get my clicker working. Yeah, so my name is Aurora. I'm from Norway, currently living and working in Oslo. I'm a front-end developer, Microsoft MVP in web tech, and React educator. And my primary role is a consultant at Crayon Consulting. However, I'm also the React certification lead at Certificates Dev. And in my primary role, I'm actively building with the Next.js app router using React 19 and server components and other features, so that's where I get most of my inspiration from. And on that note, what was the inspiration behind this talk? Well, I was working on a feature which demanded quite a few different things, and it motivated to recreate this feature as a demo, which is what I'm going to show you today. For that feature, I needed to build a new UI component given to me in Figma by my designer. There were a lot of interactions with custom styles and state specified, and no existing component in our design system and component library that could fill these requirements. So I was faced with this problem, creating UI components with custom design from scratch. Does this page scare you a little? Have you been here before? The WCAG 2 standards for building accessible apps. This definitely scares me. Well, in Norway, we actually have requirements to follow the standard in public applications, and we can even be fined if we don't adhere to it. But the problem is I'm not an accessibility expert, and I don't have any dedicated resource to help me directly understand and decode this. So I had another problem, building a UI that is accessible without writing the code for that yourself. And I had a third problem, one commonly encountered in React, handling asynchronous operations smoothly and avoiding flickering pending states and unstable UX without a lot of extra code. Here's an example of those problems happening in this checkout cart. You can see the pending state is not actually synced to the server finishing its update, and you don't get this nice code either. So to solve all of this, I used a number of tools. Tailwind CSS was just the best way for me to effectively style the components based on that custom Figma design, and I used that already, and I wanted to keep using it with a component. Tailwind CSS v4 came out not so long ago, so we're going to use that later in the demo. As for the accessibility, I used ARIA-Kit, which is a library that provides unstyled accessible primitives for components like select, menu, and more. It's optimized for screen reader, has keyboard support, and follows the WCAG standard. And I already used this or tried this in our design system component library, and we had a really great experience with it. And just look at the focus management and just the way this whole documentation menu is created, obviously created with ARIA-Kit, so yeah. And finally, for handling the asynchronous operations, I used features from React 19. There's a lot here to help us with async management. So specifically actions through new hooks like use transition and use optimistic, plus server functions that simplify communication with the server. So basically, these are the tools that allow me to build a feature. So let's see how to combine this by heading over to a demo. Yeah, so I'm in this project dashboard sort of demo app here, inspired by that feature. So I'm trying to recreate what I made there. So let's say you were given this custom design by your designer in Figma, and it has this custom select thing that you went ahead and you built. And it looks pretty nice, right? Let's try to interact with this. So I would expect to interact with this with the up and down keys, but that's not working. And I guess I'm using tab, but now I'm outside the select, and I can't close it by clicking outside. I can't press escape. I'm in this weird state now. OK, let's try the actual interaction. Well, I have this spinner here. And it disappeared before the UI even updated. So there's something weird also happening here. So I have this challenge. I'm trying to build this custom UI component. And I want it to be accessible, obviously. And I want it to be smooth, have a smooth UX with not too much code. But I'm not an accessibility expert, and I didn't do a very good job. It's not working very well. Yeah, so this was sort of what situation I was in. That's why the goal of this demo is to make this example here interactive and accessible and improve this unstable UX with React 19 and ARIA-Kit. So yeah, let's get to the code. So the app here is basically I completed all of the data fetching already, and since we already learned about server components from Daishi Kato in the previous talk, you maybe know some of this already, but yeah, I'm using server components in the app router here. I have also Prisma as my ORM with a Prisma Postgres database, and then Tailwind CSS v4. So you'll see I'm fetching data in this root server component. I have my data access layer here. I'm simulating this authentication setup with a get current account, and then I'm just using cookies here. And when you load the app, you'll see I'm using streaming server-side rendering to display these fallbacks as the component resolve on the server. But this is not the focus of the talk today. You can have a look at this if you're interested, because we are going to be focusing on this account selector component. So here, the initial implementation is that I'm just reading a promise here from the server using the React 19 use. I have a bunch of different states here, as I have like a pending state, current account state, expanded state. This probably looks very familiar. Then I have this huge handle switch account function here, setting all of the states. Expanded, optimistically setting the select value, pending state, calling an API. Yeah, there's a lot here. So let's say I just coded this in the way that I most naturally would, and then it works fine, but it could definitely be better. As for the actual JSX here, it's really hard to read what is happening here, because it's just a bunch of divs with my custom styles. So I even put comments here to be able to recognize what's what. Yeah, and I mean, don't even think about like ARIA labels here, like ARIA attributes to make this screen reader friendly. There's nothing here. Yeah. So let's begin by trying to improve some of the accessibility issues. For example, we could like handle the escape key. Okay, so that's an effect using an event listener, and it works. What about the up and down arrow keys? We would have to handle the keyboard and focus. Right. Do you guys understand this stuff? I definitely don't. I don't know if this is following the accessibility standards. Yeah, let's not go this path. Let's try something else. This is just like 2 of the many interactions we would have to handle. Yeah, let's get rid of this and instead just import ARIA-Kit. So again, ARIA-Kit gives us unstyled primitives for components like select, menu, dialog, collapsible, anything that you would need. And they all compose together. So I just want to, like, step by step, go through this component and replace everything with an ARIA-Kit equivalent. First of all, I'm not going to need this relative positioning, because ARIA-Kit can handle that for me. And to make it all work, I just need to wrap with a provider of the suitable component. So this is most similar to a select. I have this value. So let's do a select provider. Provider, like that, and just wrap everything in here. And what else? Well, I have this label. Actually, that can be just a select label. And it will be applied the right attributes for it to be accessible. I also have this open button. Well, this would be just the select itself, right? And I'm not going to handle my expanded state myself, so I can remove my onClick here. Yeah. So now my open close is broken. I'm currently clicking this. It's not working because the expanded state is no longer being set, right? And my chevron is not spinning. The styling is not being applied. So we need to put back that styling somehow. I also have this chevron down. We can replace this with a select arrow, first of all, and remove some additional props that we don't need anymore. And we need to rotate this icon. So we're not going to use this expanded variable. We're going to instead use ARIA attributes that ARIA-Kit applies to our components or elements. So we can actually use the ARIA expanded here to rotate this icon. But it's not the select arrow that's expanded, right? It's the select itself. So we can use the Tailwind CSS group and then do a group area expanded here to rotate the icon with no like state dependencies here. Also, the button itself is not switching colors. That's because I'm basing it on the expanded state. We can get rid of all of this as well. And our kit has like these render props that we can use, so I can just render a select button here. So that's like a custom component that I have here, which is handling all of my styles using the ARIA expanded here again. So it will work again. OK, let's keep moving. We also have the popover. Currently, we can't see the popover because it was previously using this expanded state. So we don't need that anymore. And we're going to make this, obviously, a select popover. And I was handling my absolute positioning myself. I don't need to do that. I can remove this absolute positioning here. And instead of doing top 20, I can just use a gutter of 8. Like that. So it's back to the right position. And already, I have this smart viewport-aware positioning. I have the escape key working. I have the click outside. So I already have a lot of the things I was struggling to build earlier. We also have the contents of this custom component. For example, the first options item here, just this custom options item. So that's here. I can just use a select item, like that. And I also have this hover state, but it's not showing any active visibility when I'm like focusing it. So right now it's being focused, but you can't see it, right? So instead of doing hover, let's do another attribute that ARIKit applies that we can use to style our states. For example, or in this case, data active item. So now it will work on hover, but it will also work when you use the keyboard here. Let's apply the same strategy to our items in the actual account items. We can use another select item. And I need to replace this also a bit further down here, like that. And hopefully it will still work. Yeah. And in this case, I also have this hover state, but again, it doesn't activate when I'm using the tab or the keyboard here. So I can do the same thing. Instead of doing hover, let's do data active item. So it works on hover and on keyboard. But something I learned about accessibility is that when your only way of knowing your navigation position or something like that, please correct me, somebody who knows, but you're supposed to have a greater contrast, or there's a greater requirement for contrast so that you can see where you are, because this is too low contrast to see where you are. So that's why I will just, instead of doing focus visible, let's just do data focus visible. So I have my hover state here, and then I have my separate state here, or styling here for the keyboard version. Let's keep going down. We still have one more thing to replace here, which is the check mark next to the account, selected account. All of this can just be a select item check. And it just disappeared because I need to add a value to my select item. So let's add the value, and let's also add the value to the select provider here. So that will just be the current account ID here. So now it's back. And all of this, like how to style this, is in the documentation. There's like so many examples, and it doesn't have to be Tailwind. It can also just be regular CSS. Yeah, so already I have now improved all of this, like really hard to read code with just a bunch of divs, and it's accessible. So notice I have the keyboard, right? I have my focus trap. Oh, and I noticed I forgot to style this one. Let's also do that really quick. That should just be ARIA disabled now. There we go. So it looks the exact same. We didn't compromise any of the customizability, but it's now interactive and accessible. OK, let's get to work on that async operation. So again, it's doing the spinner. I have a lot of code here, and it's not entirely in sync with the actual UI update. So we need a way to synchronize that. And there's an API for that in React. It's called transitions. So we're going to use transitions here to make this unstable UX better and with less code. So we can get a transition here from use transition. And it gives us a pending state and a function to start a transition. And we're not going to need our old pending state here. And we don't need the expanded state either, because we're not using that anymore. So we can get rid of all of this code. And I'll just, well, transitions let us mark some sort of grouping of state updates as non-urgent and deferred, and then execute all of them once they're all done. So we're going to wrap that around our whole like async interaction here. So that's going to be from the fetch call and then until the end. And React 19 allows async transitions, so we can move the async flag and set this like that. And it should still work the same way, except it will now coordinate everything inside the transition and execute everything once it's all done. So it won't be like delayed and out of sync anymore. And what we're actually doing here is creating what's called an action. It's just terminology for this sort of lower priority deferred state behavior. So we have a name for that. What else? Well, I have this fetch call here, and it's calling an endpoint that I have inside here, an API. Oh, sorry. For those who don't like that logo, OK. Yeah, so I have a lot of code here, and there's a better way now. So I can actually, instead of doing a call to the API here, I can just do a switch account function. And this is actually a React server function, so another React 19 feature. It allows us to call server code from the client, which still executes on the server. So again, just simulating my authentication setup here with a cookie. And we also get type safety across the server boundary here. So I can see the type. I don't have just a JSON. I have an actual type here. And what's happening under the hood is we get this hidden API endpoint. But yeah, to us, it just feels like a function. So I can see that this shouldn't be OK. It should be error, right? And then I don't need to serialize this. It's automatically serialized. I can just use the response directly. And I can move this router refresh to the server function, actually, so I don't have to handle this on the client. Oh, not that. Let me just remove it here and instead do revalidate path from Next.js. Yeah, so let's see if that still works. So it should be the exact same, even though I'm now using a server function instead of an API endpoint. Yeah, so it's working. We can just delete this whole API layer. I'm not going to need this anymore. Finally, I have one more thing I can improve here. So I have this kind of naive optimistic update. I'm setting the current account and then rolling back if there's an error. There's a better way to do this now in React 19. So let me just show you what it looks like if I don't have this. Let's get rid of the whole state and get the value here directly from the server update. You'll see now when I click, the select doesn't update right away. So this is the UX that I was trying to avoid, because it feels a little bit stuck and weird. But use optimistic lets us handle this in an easier way. So I can get the hook use optimistic. And it works alongside actions inside transitions to coordinate with some sort of transition or action, right? And it takes in a state to show when no action is pending. That would be just the current account here. And returns an optimistic account and a function to set that. And I can use this instead of my current account right here, all over the component. And I just need to trigger this somewhere. So that would be inside a transition. I'll just coordinate it with this one. And the way use optimistic works is it creates this temporary state for as long as the transition is running. And then it falls back to the value here when the transition is done. So it will kind of smoothly, there won't be any like weird flickers there. So when I try this, it will work as before. And when the transition is done, it just, under the hood, just falls back to this. And it's easier to see if I try to make it error. So for example, I can get rid of the disabled state here, or just comment it out, and try to select an inactive account. So I'm still able to click it, and I have this optimistic state, but when the transition is done, it just automatically falls back to this past value. So it's like an automatic rollback feature. And we don't have to like set this complex or do our manual rollback. OK. I think that's it for all of the improvements. We have this a lot less code, smoother interaction here, no UX errors. I'm going to add one more feature just to showcase the customizability of ARIA Kit. So let's head down And under the divider, let's say your designer give you a last-minute design change. We also need a log out button. So it's another custom thing here that you need to add, integrate into the select. So select item, it will work. And let's add just an on-click here. It's not going to be a part of the regular select. And here we would do a log out. So this is another serve function, just deleting that cookie. We can also track the pending state very easily with a transition. So let me get a log out transition, just to keep it separate from the other one, and wrap this around like that. And then we can, for example, disable this when the transition is pending. And we can, for example, also say, logging out. And notice I'm again using the ARIA attributes provided here to style this. So for example, when the ARIA is not disabled, the select item is not disabled, we have this data active item underline. Let's see if that's also going to work. So I have my styles, and it's all working with ARIA kit there. OK, let's do like a final demo of the things that we added here. Let's just restart this. So I can log in here. I'm just using my keyboard for now. I have this streaming server-side rendering using server components. I can navigate easily through the app using tab here, open, close my menu, tab outside my menu, or select, use the keyboard as expected. I also have click outside, escape, everything that I would need from a select here. And I can execute the switch, and keep in mind the refactoring that we did here, and it's all smooth and simple now. So the result of this is that we have a maintainable and accessible and user-friendly select here with minimal boilerplate and modern best practices. OK, let's get back and summarize. So I just want to go through what we were able to achieve with this refactoring. So with ARIA Kit, we were able to build fully accessible and interactive UI, including keyboard management, click outside functionality, focus management, and screen reader support. And we were able to easily customize the UI and style it with our normal Tailwind CSS flow, but we also had these data and ARIA attributes that we could use. And we got clean, declarative, composable component code without boilerplate. And with React 19, we streamlined our server communication using server functions, skipping the whole API layer. We utilized alternatives to common solutions like useState and useEffects, and got these smooth interactions and simplified loading states through actions with the hook use transition. And we had that instant user feedback and error rollback with useOptimistic. And just look at this code. It's so much better, right? Yeah, so you can check out the repo for the code through the QR code. It's there, or just get the URL. And it has this improved version with all of the changes that we made. And if you're interested in verifying or proving your React skills, or you want to learn more about modern best practices in React or all of these newer features, the React certification that I helped build is now available. So it will test your knowledge through questions and coding challenges, and includes also training content to help you when you're preparing. So yeah, I lead the content creation for this, and I'm very biased, obviously, but I think it's a great way to increase your knowledge and get validated credentials. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, React Alicante.